Hi everyone, and welcome to the Unspoken Truth. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's great to have you here, and if you're back for more, welcome back and thank you for your ongoing support. I wanted to take a couple of minutes here today to remind you that the mainstream media has an agenda. Their job is to hypnotize you into stupidity so you comply with their ridiculous rules that their technocratic masters in government need you to follow. I also want to remind you that it's the people in mainstream media who are hypnotizing you. They'll tell you that they're just reading the news and they're just following orders. But I remember reading somewhere that the guards in the concentration camps said exactly the same thing. The mainstream media will never ever take responsibility for any of the lies that they spread. So whatever you do, do not listen to anything that they say under any circumstances. Don't be sucked into their manufactured outrage or the horrific videos and images that they want you to see. They're brainwashing you. They want you to feel outrage. The last 3 years has proved to all of us just how manipulative they are. They will do and say absolutely anything to get you to comply with their narrative. Under no circumstances should you ever again comply with their lying narrative. It's all a ruse. And that ruse is designed to enslave your soul and your mind. Every mainstream news pundit will tell you that Russia blew up the Kakhovka Dam. And every alternative media source will tell you that the Ukrainians destroyed their own infrastructure and flooded their own people. Don't believe either of them, folks. You cannot and you must not take a side when you simply don't have all the facts. The unspoken truth is that the media just wants your attention. They want you to be outraged. They want you to share their content as far and as wide as possible because that's how they make their money. The more outrage they create, the more you're going to share it. And the more you share it, the more advertising revenue they'll get. Folks, war is very, very good for the media business. So stop sharing Channel 9 news, stop sharing Channel 7 news, stop sharing Fox, and please, whatever you do, don't share CNN or ABC either. I'm sorry to say it, but no one, not a single person in the news, no one you've seen on YouTube or any other social media knows who blew up that dam. And anyone that tells you otherwise is a liar. There's simply no way to verify any person's opinion or so-called fact. The only people that know who blew up that dam are the people that rigged it and hit the clacker to actually blow it. It's as simple as that. Zelensky said that the evil Russians did it. And the alternative media source is so quick to tell you that it was the Ukrainians that blew up their own dam. The world is upside down, folks. Why on earth would the Ukrainians blow up their own dam? The reason that the world is upside down and there's so much confusion about it all is because absolutely no one in any media trusts anything that any politician from any government says. Why would you? You can't trust Zelensky, you can't trust Biden, you can't trust Putin. What about this moron and this idiot? We all know it. If their lips are moving, then they're lying. That's a fact that continues to repeat itself time and again, and the mainstream continues to feed it to you for your ravenous consumption. I'm willing to bet that as a thinking person, you also know that the mainstream media is just an extension of these political lies. Why would you ever believe anything that they say then? They're a very large part of the political agenda and the political apparatchik. Without them, the lying politicians simply cannot get their message out. So when Zelensky comes out and tells us the Russians blew up the dam after he's been caught out on something else, like, well, I don't know, let's say Nord Stream, how can we believe him on anything that he says, especially about this dam? Likewise on the Russian side. Just in the past 2 days, they've claimed to have destroyed a bunch of Leopard tanks. But in reality, they were blowing up farming equipment because their pilots are a bunch of incompetent morons. Both sides are literally as stupid as each other. They say that truth is the first casualty of war, and it seems to me that the longer that this goes on, the more obvious their lies become. Albo calls Australians chicken littles. He thinks that we're worried that the sky is going to fall, but the reality is we're not chicken littles. He's the boy who cried wolf, and the Australian population knows it, and we're turning against him. The world is not going to melt and end in 2030. We're not going to die because of a coal-fired power plant. And no normal, reasonable thinking person believes that Albo can change the weather with his pen and some stupid legislation. It's just not possible on this plane of existence of reality where we currently exist. It turns out that the boy from a single mother in a housing commission estate is not only a liar and a fearmonger, he's also an incompetent moron. Your politicians, no matter where they're from, want you to follow them into a war created by them. But none of them are ever going to have to hold a rifle to close with and destroy the enemy, to sleep in a trench, nor are they ever going to be put in harm's way in any way, shape, or form. Every day I see videos from Ukraine that show war crimes. I see Ukrainian war crimes and Russian war crimes. Yet the mainstream media is totally silent on all of this. Their silence is not only disgusting, it's actually deafening. No politician advocating for this war is paying any attention to any of this, nor have they put themselves into a position where they can do something to stop it. A real journalist would ask the Prime Minister, maybe the Defence Minister, maybe even the Foreign Minister, why our government continues to support a side that does not operate within the rules of armed conflict. Why do we support that and allow that to continue? Why are we giving millions of dollars worth of hardware and equipment and money to them? I just don't understand. Do you really think for a second that the mainstream media can't find what I can uncover in about 10 seconds on Telegram? I'll put some links in the description below, folks. I want you to go and have a look at some of those links. And I want you to tell me, after watching those war crimes committed by Ukrainians, if you still support Ukraine in this war. I want you to have a look. But in the interest of balance, make sure that you watch the Russian war crimes as well. I'm pretty sure that you're not going to support that either. One thing that is abundantly clear in those videos is that there's no politicians anywhere to be seen on the front line. Lindsey Graham's not there. Richard Miles is not there. Neither is Jen Stoltenberg or Mark Milley. Yet here we are, folks. These people are marching us blindly towards an open confrontation with the CCP. Australia will have no choice but to support America when they attack the CCP. There's a deep expectation that we follow in lockstep and support them. But the scale of that conflict is going to be so large that our piddly little 3 air warfare destroyers are going to be sunk in the first few weeks of the war. Then what? What are we going to do? Send the Anzac-class ships there? Are you kidding me? They'll be sunk in the next couple of hours if we did that. Our Navy is an absolute joke, and the PLA know it, and they're laughing their asses off at us. What about the 7 infantry battalions that we have? That's how many we've got, 7. Are you kidding me? They're going to be destroyed in the first few weeks of the war as well. The PLA has 118 infantry divisions that we know about, each with around 12,000 men in it. How long are we going to last against them, even if we are supported by the US and others? The PLA just has more troops that it can bring to the fight, and we won't be able to train and get reinforcements into the fight fast enough. We're going to end up in a war of attrition with the PLA, and we're going to be destroyed. The ADF is so woefully underprepared because of the stupid, impotent, and weak leadership that has been in place for the past 20 years. Our military will be quickly rolled up by a vastly numerically superior force within a few months. And then that only leads to one thing, the C word. Do you know what it is? Yep, conscription. The Ukrainians don't publish their losses. However, we estimate from open source intelligence that they've lost between 350 up to maybe 500,000 men. There's only 90,000 people in the entire Australian Defence Force. That's the Navy, Army, and the Air Force. Now, we all laugh at the stupid, foolish Russians for conscripting prisoners and taking over 500,000 people off the street to put them into the fight for their special military operation. But as we march towards war with the CCP, the Australian government will be forced to replace the troops destroyed on the battlefield, and the only way that they're going to be able to do that is with conscription. That means you, Mr. Military-aged male between 17 and 55. For all of you on the left, I want to ask you, where is all of your equity and inclusion now? Can I have some hands up for the women that will be conscripted to the infantry for the trenches and the foxholes of the Asian war? You won't even be able to pick up the freaking pack, let alone fight. Your line of equity and inclusion comes right up to the line of infantry work and then it stops. But I don't want it to. Let's be fair. Let's get all the girls between the ages of 17 and 55. They can be military age females. They can have penises if they want, and let's get them into the fight as well. The people on the left are a bunch of hypocrites. Your equity and inclusion is nothing but stupid virtue signaling. You're scoring some imaginary points about inclusion while you expect the men of your country to go forth and die for the freedom that you want, all while you support some idiot on the left. Spoiler alert, folks. That idiot on the left is going to get you all killed, whether you're on the left or the right. Soon the fools on the left will realize that soft men create hard times. The embarrassingly weak men that lead this country, its military and businesses have supplicated to the ESG requirements of the technocrats, which is now bringing us all to the hardest times of the past 100 years. Your equity and diversity and your stupid welcome to country and your trans rights won't mean anything, especially when you're sent into the meat grinder of the Asian war by the most incompetent leader in Australian history. Equity and diversity is absolutely and completely meaningless. And if you follow this unwritten law, it proves that you're nothing but a weak, foolish moron captivated by a socialist ideology from the left. In times of war, you're going to be sent to the front just like everybody else. If you're on the left, you need to wake up really quickly because you need to realize that this stupid green ideology is as meaningless as the government that pretends to support you with it. You need to remember that that same government and those politicians that claim to support you on the left will just as quickly send you to the front line to be killed in combat. For them, it'll be just as important that everybody's included, not just a selected few. Doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, you're going to be sent to the front as well. Whatever you do, folks, do not follow these foolish politicians into another war. We're already at war with Russia because of their reckless decisions. And they're marching us towards a war with China on a scale that you couldn't possibly comprehend. It's going to be far worse than anything in Europe, and the cost of it's going to be far higher to you as an individual. The Australian government has the weakest politicians that have ever existed in our history. The Labor Party will tell you that inflation and interest rates are the Reserve Bank's fault. They'll tell you that high petrol prices are Vladimir Putin's fault. And they'll tell you that the cost of living increases that we're all facing are because of the previous government. Now, some of that might be true. However, leadership is all about taking responsibility for it and doing something about it. But instead of doing that, the Australian government is insisting, for some strange reason, that the population be divided into two groups based on their race. Imagine if the centerpiece policy of your brand new government was the complete division of Australian society into haves and have-nots. The desired result for this strange government is that a less than 4% majority will have a say on everything that the government does from here on in, while the other 96% have no say at all. It doesn't make any sense. And while they're getting organised to divide Australia into some strange race-based system, they're busy blaming someone else for their piss-poor performance on the economy while supporting and enabling more war crimes on a daily basis. In fact, the Australian government is even thinking about handing off the old F-18s that we have and even the old M1A1 tanks to the Ukrainians. Just imagine how much longer they could prolong this conflict with that fancy hardware. The government wants you to believe that the world is full of boogeymen that need to be destroyed at all costs. They've lied to you about medical procedures, pretending that they were safe while completely failing to verify that they were. They've broken election promises, and they'll say that war crimes are not being committed. What are you talking about, Rob? There's no war crimes. All right, no worries. Click on the links below, but you've been warned. They're war crimes. It's horrible. Worst of all, they'll tell you that none of the pain that you feel financially is their fault. They'll do that. They'll say it to your face. Oh, it's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. They'll say that to your face while they're continuing to destroy your savings account and your wages with inflation. And they'll crush your dream of home ownership with the consecutive interest rate rises that we've seen in the last year. The world that we live in, folks, is truly inverted. The definition of Satanism is the inversion of reality. So are we governed by Satan-worshipping, blood-drinking freaks? It sure feels like it to me. The world is definitely upside down when the government allows men who think that they're women to tell stories about sexuality to children not yet old enough to say more than a few sentences about their favorite toy. The left has infected society, politics, and created division in our once amazing, successful, and inclusive country. There are no leaders left in politics. They've all been subjugated by the technocratic masters that are marching us all towards a digital ID and a central bank digital currency. Folks, if they do that, that's going to be the termination of all your rights as a person, and all of your ability to be a free and sovereign person will go away. Do not listen to the warmongering, foolish technocrats that govern us. And under no circumstances should you join any military for any so-called patriotic reason. No such reason exists anymore. It doesn't exist. They are liars. Don't be drawn into their rhetoric or into their propaganda, folks. It's not true. They do not care about you or the country. The people that send you to war are going to ask you to pay for the privilege with your life, all while enriching themselves in the process. And they're going to be sipping on an oat latte, laughing at you for being so stupid and for being so gullible. I want to remind you, folks, that there's only two things that really matter in life, and that's who you love and who loves you. Ignore absolutely everything the lying politicians and the mainstream media say to you. Your job is to fight back against their lies with absolutely everything you have.